everybody! So today we are going to be making a raspberry and chocolate tart.
I really need you to hear what I'm saying.
So basically we're going to make a sweet shortcrust pastry and base, and then we're going to fill it with some fresh raspberries and some chocolate ganache, and then we're going to top it with some fresh cream. It makes for a really tasty dessert. So let's get stuck in with our pastry first. Easier to do it in a food processor, that's why I'm using a food processor. You can also do it by hand. So by hand you would basically crumble your flour, your butter and your icing sugar together in like a breadcrumb consistency via your hands, and then you would mix in your egg and bring your dough together. But it'll be a lot easier just to do it inside the food processor. So I'm just going to get my scale, my electric scale, and put it underneath my food processor, and then make sure the blade attachment is also in my food processor. You want to go ahead and put your scale on. Make sure your scale is on 0, and the first thing we're going to go in with is our plain flour. 215 grams of plain flour. Okay, so just weigh it straight in. You can use a spoon if you want to. Then we're going to add icing sugar to the pastry to make it sweet. So put your scale back on 0. Should be a 0 button or a tear button on your scale that you can press to make it go back to 0 before you weigh in your next ingredients. 30 grams of icing sugar, okay? So add it in slowly. Then we need some cold unsalted butter, and make sure it's cold straight from the fridge. Very important for it to be cold. So put your scale back on 0, and I'm going to cut it into small cubes and then add it in slow gradually until I reach 175 grams. 175 grams of cold butter, unsalted butter. Food processor forward, okay, and attach your jug on. Okay, make sure your blade is locked into place. Go ahead and put your lid on. Make sure you put your lid on, guys. And then we're going to pulse it, okay? So pulsing basically means we're going to blitz it in short bursts, and this is going to basically cut the butter and mix it in with the flour and make kind of like a breadcrumb consistency. Go ahead and pulse. So short bursts. And that's it really. It just takes a few seconds, and your pastry crumbs should look like this now. So it kind of looks like a breadcrumb kind of texture. Okay, we're going to put that back on there. So your 1 egg goes in there, and this will bind the pastry together. So the egg goes in, and the egg is cold as well, okay? That's pretty much come together now. I'm just going to see if that's wet enough. Yeah, it's perfect. Okay, I don't need to add any water to that, but if yours feels a little bit dry, then you can go ahead and add a tablespoon of cold water, okay? Let's unwrap our cling film. So I've got my cling film down, and I'm going to turn out my pastry onto the cling film, okay? And you don't want to overwork your pastry, okay? I'm going to go ahead and wrap the cling film around the top of that as well, and then cut off how much I need. Once we've wrapped the pastry in the cling film, we're going to go ahead and use the cling film just to shape our pastry into a disc shape, okay? Just kind of stick it together, bring it together, just like this, in the pastry, and that is done. And we're going to stick that now in the fridge for about half an hour, and it'll be ready to roll out. Okay, so let's do that. Let's put our pastry in the fridge now. We're going to go ahead and preheat our ovens now. 180 degrees fan, 200 no fan, and gas mark 6, okay? So we're making a ganache for the filling. So for that we need a bowl. We're going to use some dark chocolate, and we're also going to use some milk chocolate. So a combination of both makes it nice and sweet, but also not too rich at the same time. So I'm going to be using 150 grams of dark chocolate, and I know each bar is 100 grams. So I'm just going to add in 1.5 bars. I don't need to weigh it, but if your bars are bigger, then you want to put your scale underneath your bowl and then weigh your chocolate into there, okay? Okay, so 150 grams of dark chocolate broken up into small pieces into your bowl. We're going to go ahead and add in your milk chocolate. So it's 200 grams of milk chocolate. For ganache, we need 300 milliliters of cream, and this pot already contains 300 milliliters, so I don't need to weigh it in. But again, if you have a bigger pot, then you want to weigh in your cream. It goes into there. And then we are going to melt it gradually in the microwave. So I'm just going to do it minute by minute, mix it in between until it all comes together, okay? See the cream is heated and it's starting to melt the chocolate, so we're just going to give it a mix, and then we are going to put it back in. because obviously it's not hot enough yet. And it's important not to put it in for like 3 minutes in one go, because then you can end up burning your cream and you can end up burning your chocolate in the microwave. So you just do it gradually, okay, and mix it in between. So that is our ganache pretty much done. It should be nice and smooth and not have any large bits of chocolate or small bits of chocolate even, and it should be nice and shiny and look like that. It is a little bit runny now, but once we put it into our tart and then put it in the fridge, it will set as a set ganache, okay? So let's put that to the side for now. So now it's time to roll out our pastry. Our pastry has been chilling long enough, so I'm going to go and grab it. Lightly dust our surface with some plain flour, just so that our pastry doesn't stick. Okay, and we're going to dust our rolling pin with some flour as well, just to make sure that it doesn't stick to the rolling pin, okay? If it's still a little bit sticky, yours, guys, just put it in the fridge for a little bit longer, and just make sure it's not sticky when you roll it out. So you want to roll out your pastry so that it is big enough to cover the bottom of your tin and also go up the sides as well. You gather up your pastry onto your rolling pin, okay, and then put your paste underneath, and then gently just put your pastry into your tin, okay? You're going to work quite quickly because you don't want your pastry to go soft, so you basically start by pushing it into the edges. So lift it up just like so, and get the edge of your finger like this and kind of push it into the edges of your case, okay? So go ahead and then push the edges down like this. I'm going to leave about 1 centimeter excess because the pastry does shrink a little bit in the oven when we bake it. So I'm going to leave a little bit of overhang on there and then get rid of that later once we've par-baked it a little bit, okay? When you get yourself a fork, and go ahead and prick the bottom of your pastry. So this is going in the freezer now for about 5 minutes before I put it into bake, okay? So for this recipe, for the filling, you need 200 grams of raspberries. So I'm going to go ahead and weigh out 200 grams of raspberries. Rinse them a couple of times just to get rid of any dirt that might be on them. And now we're going to dry them. It's important to dry them as well because we don't want soggy raspberries making our pastry case soggy as well. Use a paper towel. Let our raspberries dry on the paper towel so that they're nice and dry when we're ready to use them later. So now the pastry has chilled for a little while. We're going to go ahead and blind bake it. Cut a piece of baking paper that is big enough to fill the entire pastry case, okay, so about that size, so that you can put your baking beads in there. Crunch it up. Go ahead and put our chilled pastry onto our flat tray. We're going to add our baking paper in there. You want to add in your baking beads, okay? Just level them out so that they're covering the entire base of the pastry. Now we're going to blind bake that now for about 15 minutes. So let's put that in the oven. Bismillah. Ready to move on to the whipped cream part. Pot is 300 milliliters, so the whole pot goes in. To sweeten that up, we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of icing sugar. So your icing sugar, level it off and that in. That's 1 tablespoon. I'm going to add 2 of those in. A teaspoon of vanilla extract also goes in. So we're going to go ahead and whip our cream now until it forms soft peaks, okay? So we want it to just hold its shape so that it's pipeable. We don't want it to be too firm. If you do have 2 working attachments, please use both of them. My hand mixer is broken, so I just use one. A poor thing. See, it's starting to hold its shape, and that's it. That's as much as you want to whip it. So can you see it's just started to hold its shape, but it is still very soft, and that is what we're looking for. That is done, so we just need to put that in the fridge until we need to use it later to decorate our tart when it's done. Baking for 15 minutes. Let's get it out. As I mentioned, the pastry is very, very buttery, and it did kind of reduce. Can you see the overhang that I left kind of fell off by itself? And that's because my pastry wasn't chilled enough before I put it in the oven. So you have to make sure that you chill your pastry enough before you put it into the oven to prevent that from happening, okay? So I'm going to remove the baking beads now. Remember, the beads are very, 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 very hot, so be very careful. Have a plate ready to put your beads into because they're very hot, and don't burn yourself, okay? Lift up the corners, okay? And don't touch the beads themselves. Okay? And just gently lift off your baking paper and put the beads into a plate and allow them to cool completely before you put them away because they're very hot, okay? I'm just going to get rid of all that excess pastry that fell off onto the side. So we're going to put that back into the oven for another 5 minutes, just to make sure that bit, inside bit, is baked a little bit better, and then that the case will be ready for us to fill then with the ganache. Okay. Okay, so the pastry is pretty much done, guys. So let's take it out. Let's turn our oven off. So once it is baked, it should look like this. It should have a nice light brown, golden brown colour in the middle. Okay, and we're going to let that cool ever so slightly for about 5 minutes before we add in our ganache filling. Okay, because we don't want it to be soggy. So I'm going to let that cool for a little while before we add our ganache in. Okay. So I'm just going to get rid of this extra bit of pastry here, just because it's over the edge and I don't like it. There we go. Now that our pastry case is ready and has cooled, we're ready to fill it. First of all, our raspberries that we washed and dried earlier. Okay, we're going to put them inside the bottom of the tart. You just spread them out so that there's an even layer of raspberries all around the bottom of your tart. Okay, I'm actually going to put all my raspberries in facing upwards. You're probably thinking, girl has too much time on her hands, but some of us have to do that. Okay, it's just part of our nature. There, feel better now. So once you've got your raspberries in there, you're going to go ahead and add in your ganache. Okay, it should still be a little bit runny enough for you to just pour it in, and just pour an even layer of ganache into your pastry case over your raspberries. Okay, with an offset spatula or just with a regular spatula or a knife, just want to spread your ganache out into an even layer. Just be careful not to move your raspberries around. Just an even layer. It should fill majority of your tart tin. Okay, the ganache. Now that is going to go in the fridge for a few hours until the ganache has completely set. Okay, so let's put it in the fridge now. Okay, so once your chocolate ganache has set in your tart, it's time to do the topping, the cream topping. So to do that, we've got our double cream that we whipped earlier. And I'm going to cut the tip of your piping bag off, just enough to fit the tip of your piping tip in. I'm going to go ahead and insert your piping tip inside your piping bag, like so. Fill it with your cream. That the ganache has set on my tart, I'm going to remove the tart from the tart tin. So you just have to carefully, it's a loose base tin, so it comes out quite easily. Alright, put that on top of whatever you're going to serve your tart onto, cake board or something like that. Start off around the edges, anti-clockwise rose it, starting at one edge and just going around like so. And we're just going to do that all the way around the whole tart. One more here because it's quite a big gap, and then whatever gaps you have, you just basically pipe some stars in the middle. Okay, some can be bigger, some can be smaller. And that has made a really pretty design on top of our tart. Don't know if you can see it properly. Gorgeous. And now to finish it off, we're going to add some fresh raspberries to the top as well. Wash and dry your raspberries again. And then I'm going to just put them upside down, just in some gaps where I think they look pretty. Okay, finish up looking like this, and I'll cut a slice and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I didn't fully wait for it to set fully because it takes a few hours, and I'm not feeling well, so I just couldn't wait. So I just chopped straight into it, even though the middle part was still quite runny. Now you can see what the slice looks like, and you can tell that the middle part is runny and the edges are kind of set. But anyway, that is what the inside should look like, and if it's set properly, then it'll be really nice. So it's like fresh raspberries with ganache, pastry and cream. Honestly, the flavour combination is to die for. You can see the layers there. Obviously, you'd be able to see them properly if it was set properly. And I turned the fork around to show you. Pastry, raspberries, ganache, cream. Honestly, the flavours are stunning. You won't regret making this. Try it out. It's not that hard. It's just the pastry that you have to get right. Hope you enjoyed the recipe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bye everyone.